What if the Lord's Prayer you recite is actually a 2,000-year-old trap? Ancient architects intentionally amputated its ending to short-circuit your soul and keep you permanently powerless. Stay until the end to unlock the stolen Aramaic sequence that will violently reignite your divine spark. Have you ever stopped in the middle of a solemn ceremony, closed your eyes, and truly listened to the sound of your own voice as you recite the Lord's Prayer? Think back to those moments. In vaulted cathedrals, echoing with stone acoustics, at tearful funerals, or around the family dinner table during Thanksgiving. Even in the darkest, most silent nights of your soul, when desperation rises and you have absolutely nothing left to hold on to, your lips move through the familiar syllables. The articulation of the words flows like a conditioned reflex, a song programmed into your subconscious since you were a mere child. Our Father, who art in heaven. But what actually happens when that final syllable echoes into the silence? When the word Amen drops like a heavy, definitive period? Do you feel a profound, absolute fulfillment? Or is there a deep, gnawing spiritual void tearing at your insides? Millions of people around the world are silently enduring this exact same agony. When Amen concludes, instead of feeling the overwhelming, burning presence of the Creator, we are violently thrown back into reality with a devastating sense of separation. God remains somewhere high above, infinitely distant, ruling in an untouchable kingdom, while we remain trapped below, bearing the crushing weight of earthly guilt and human frailty. No matter how many times you chant the words, your faith somehow never feels like it is enough. You beg for daily bread, you plead for forgiveness, you cry out for deliverance, yet the deepest lingering sensation is that of a spiritual beggar standing outside the locked, iron gates of heaven. What if I told you that this colossal, suffocating void you are feeling is not because your faith is weak, nor because you are an unworthy sinner? That agonizing emptiness is the direct result of a deliberate, historical theft. Brace your mind for a truth that will absolutely shatter the foundational paradigms you have built your entire spiritual life upon. The Lord's Prayer that we recite today, the very text printed in billions of Bibles worldwide, is not the complete transmission that Jesus Christ left behind. It is a mutilated text. This was not some innocent translation error lost to the sands of time. This was a calculated, intentional intervention designed to shatter a perfect energy loop, a primordial spiritual technology engineered to instantly merge humanity with the source. By stripping away a crucial, closing sequence, the ruling powers of antiquity transformed a magnificent activator of divine power into a passive, powerless plea. Bible Tales US 07 welcomes you to this journey of awakening. If you are ready to uncover the hidden mysteries of our faith and reclaim your spiritual birthright, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel right now. Your subscription is the vital support that motivates us to continue bringing these profound, life-changing truths out of the shadows in our future videos. I do not stand before you today as a robed cleric or a self-proclaimed guru. I am merely a pilgrim, an independent researcher who has spent years brushing away the thick dust of history to rediscover our true, authentic selves. I invite you to walk with me into the absolute stillness, into the secret place of your own soul, so that together we can tear down this ancient veil of secrecy and take back exactly what has always belonged to us. To understand exactly what was stolen from us in the shadows of antiquity, we must first travel back to the dusty roads of first-century Judea and listen to the precise vibrations of the language Jesus actually spoke. When I began poring over fragments of the ancient Syriac and Aramaic texts, the foundation of my entire theological upbringing began to violently fracture. Aramaic was not merely a utilitarian tool for communication. It was a quantum, vibrational language where every single syllable carried the physical, living frequency of creation itself. When Jesus stood before the multitudes and taught his disciples, he did not look up to the sky and say, "Our Father, who art in heaven." He closed his eyes, grounded his feet into the earth, and resonated the words, Abwun debwashmaya. The difference in meaning is absolutely staggering. Abwun does not mean a distant, authoritative male patriarch sitting on a cloudy throne judging humanity. It translates closest to O Birther, Father Mother of the cosmos, representing a divine, cosmic breath that constantly radiates outward, vibrating through every atom, every star, and every beating heart. Heaven, or Shmaya, was not described as a geographical location light years away, but rather as the boundless, shimmering frequencies of reality that exist right here, right now, layered invisibly over our physical world. The Greek and Latin translators, whether operating through profound ignorance or deliberate instruction, completely flattened this multidimensional poetry into a rigid, feudal contract. They effectively turned a deeply mystical practice of aligning one's biological heartbeat with the rhythm of the universe into a desperate legal petition filed before an angry, unapproachable judge. As I sat alone in the dim light of library archives, running my fingers over the phonetic translations of these fragile ancient scrolls, I actually wept. I realized in that quiet room that for my entire life, I had been speaking to a phantom. The original Aramaic words were explicitly designed to tune the human body like an acoustic instrument, forcing it to violently resonate with the highest frequency of the divine source. But the translated words we have been handed in our modern Bibles are flat, dissonant, and completely devoid of their original harmonic power. We have been trying to unlock a multi-dimensional doorway using a two-dimensional key, completely unaware that the language of our modern prayers was structurally engineered to keep the door firmly shut. Yet, the tragic dilution of the Aramaic language was merely the prelude to the ultimate spiritual crime, the deliberate severing of the prayer's closing energetic circuit. In the unredacted, deeply esoteric traditions that long predated the formalized, state-sanctioned Bible, the Lord's Prayer did not end with a passive, helpless sigh of resignation. The ancient sequence was brilliantly constructed as a perfect, closed-loop energetic circuit. You draw the divine power down into the physical realm. You process it through your uniquely human experience, forgiving others, seeking daily nourishment, navigating the dark impulses of the ego. And then, crucially, you must seal and return that energy back to the source to complete the manifestation process. This is the missing key that explains our collective spiritual exhaustion. The original prayer contained a powerful, active affirmation that firmly anchored the cosmic energy into the speaker's present physical reality, acting as a bold declaration of spiritual sovereignty. Instead, we are taught to let the prayer drop abruptly with, "Deliver us from evil, Amen." The spiritual energy builds up in your chest, reaches the precipice of manifestation, and is suddenly aborted, bleeding out into the ether entirely unfulfilled. Some later manuscripts in Protestant traditions eventually attempted to patch this glaring void with the doxology, "For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory." But even this was a politically motivated addition, a final act of outward submission rather than the inward sealing of the divine spark. The true, ancient ending was a vibrational seal that essentially commanded the universe, declaring, "I now embody this truth. The kingdom is established within my own heart, and through my breath, it is made permanently real in this world." Without this essential grounding sequence, the prayer leaves you violently unmoored, reaching desperately for a lifeline that has been deliberately cut short just inches from your grasp. When you recite the modern version, you are essentially spinning the engine of your soul but completely severing the drive belt. You generate immense spiritual heat, profound longing, and genuine tears, but absolutely nothing moves forward. The energy never loops back. It is a psychological trap designed to keep you permanently exhausted, forever asking for a deliverance that was supposed to be activated, not requested. You must understand that this profound amputation of our spiritual anatomy was not an innocent accident of history, but a masterstroke of psychological subjugation engineered by the early architects of religious empire. Ask yourself one very dangerous question. What happens to a massively wealthy, deeply entrenched institution when its millions of followers suddenly realize they do not need it? In the 3rd and 4th centuries, as the early church councils convened under the watchful eyes of Roman emperors to codify what would ultimately become the authorized Bible, they faced a terrifying existential dilemma. The original, uncut teachings of Christ empowered the individual human being to become a direct, localized conduit for supreme divine power. A human being who can independently complete the energetic loop, who deeply understands that the kingdom of heaven is a literal frequency they can generate from within their own biology, does not need a priest to intercede for them. They do not need to buy indulgences. They do not need to cower in fear of the wrath of excommunication, and they certainly do not need to empty their pockets to build golden palaces for earthly kings disguised as holy men. Therefore, the entire spiritual paradigm had to be violently shifted from internal empowerment to external dependency. By removing the energetic seal of the Lord's Prayer and twisting the translation from Aramaic into Greek, the ruling elite effectively short-circuited human consciousness. They trapped humanity in a perpetual state of spiritual infancy, ensuring that the masses would always look outside of themselves for salvation. We became a planet of perpetual beggars, standing at the ornate altars of the world with our hands outstretched, eternally waiting for a rescue operation that was already living quietly inside our own DNA. This was the ultimate, unforgivable theft, not of gold nor of land, but of our inherent human divinity. As I slowly uncovered the sheer scale and audacity of this ancient conspiracy, shuffling through historical records that most scholars simply choose to ignore, my initial burning anger slowly transformed into a profound, clarifying sorrow. I mourned for the billions of brilliant, beautiful souls who have lived and died over the millennia genuinely believing they were broken, unworthy sinners separated from the God who breathed them into existence. The time for mourning this historical theft has passed, however, because the true, unbroken sequence still lives vibrantly within the genetic memory of your soul, waiting only for your conscious breath to awaken it. We absolutely do not need permission from Rome, from a council of long-dead monarchs, or from the heavily redacted pages of an authorized book to reclaim what is rightfully and eternally ours. The complete restoration of this primordial spiritual technology begins the very moment you fundamentally change your internal posture. The next time you close your eyes to pray, I desperately want you to completely abandon the terrifying image of the distant, ruling monarch sitting in the clouds. Breathe in the overwhelming reality of the birther of the cosmos, the living, vibrating frequency that dances in the empty, silent spaces between your cells. Speak the familiar words not as a desperate, tearful petition from a broken sinner, but as a sovereign energetic alignment with the universe itself. Draw the blinding light down from the cosmos. Let it wash entirely through your earthly burdens, your fears, and your deepest traumas. But when you reach the end, do not dare to just drop the connection. You must consciously create your own energetic seal. Declare with absolute, unwavering conviction that the kingdom, the power, and the glory are not just floating in the sky, but are actively manifesting through your physical body, right here and right now. Amen is not merely a polite period at the end of a spoken sentence. It is the violent striking of the blacksmith's anvil, the absolute command that says, "Let this energetic reality be firmly and permanently established in the physical world." When you finally complete the circuit, when you stop begging and start claiming your birthright, you will physically feel the shift. The terrifying void will instantly vanish. That agonizing, echoing emptiness you have felt your entire life will be violently replaced by a roaring, incandescent fire in the center of your chest. You are no longer a spiritual beggar standing out in the cold, staring through the iron gates of heaven. You are, and always have been, the temple itself, and it is finally time to turn the lights back on. For centuries, humanity has been spiritually disenfranchised by a deliberate mistranslation and truncation of one of the most powerful esoteric tools ever given to us, the Lord's Prayer. By stripping away the multidimensional, vibrational reality of the original Aramaic and cutting short its closed-loop energetic circuit, early institutional architects transformed a practice of profound inner empowerment into a rigid contract of external submission. We were conditioned to believe we are mere beggars pleading with a distant, judging monarch, entirely dependent on an intermediary institution for our salvation. Yet, the cosmic truth remains encoded in our very DNA. The divine is not an external ruler, but the very breath and frequency of creation, the birther of the cosmos, vibrating within every cell of our bodies. The profound tragedy of this historical theft is completely overshadowed by the breathtaking power of our present awakening. We possess the inherent authority to reignite this ancient technology simply by shifting our internal posture. When we stop begging and start embodying the divine spark, actively sealing the cosmic energy within our own physical reality, we bypass the centuries of engineered control. We are not separated from the source. We are its localized expression. Recognizing this shatters the deeply ingrained illusion of our brokenness and invites us to fully reclaim our spiritual sovereignty, proving once and for all that the true temple of the divine has always been within us. True spiritual power and salvation are never found outside of yourself, nor do they require a mediator. Historical institutions have long manipulated language and spiritual practices to foster dependency and control, convincing you that you are fundamentally broken. The ultimate lesson is the realization of your own inherent divinity. You are a sovereign, living conduit of cosmic energy, fully equipped to manifest the kingdom of heaven from within. Transform the way you approach your daily prayer, meditation, or quiet reflection. Stop using these moments to list your grievances and beg a distant force to rescue you. Instead, use your breath to ground yourself and actively draw energy into your body. Process your daily struggles through this internal light, and crucially, always finish your practice by deliberately sealing the energy. Make a firm, verbal declaration, such as, "I now establish this peace, power, and strength within my own physical reality." Rather than letting the energy dissipate, Shift your daily mindset entirely from "please help me" to "I am actively activating the divine strength already within me." We would love to hear your perspective on this shift in awareness. When you currently pray or meditate, do you feel more like you are asking an outside force for help or activating a power already inside you? Please share your thoughts politely in the comments below so we can all learn and grow from each other's experiences. If this message resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button to support the channel. Your support is exactly what motivates us to keep uncovering these truths and bringing you more deep, thought-provoking content.